You know, he chose to do that horizontal, you know, to get the breadth of experience instead of the, you know, doing just one thing. So it's a choice he made, and so he does definitely do all that stuff, and so he's definitely a Renaissance man.
I've often said he's really mastered consciousness. You know what I mean by that is he can spend hours just being involved in that, and then he'll switch to maybe the violin or writing poetry, or let's go out with some friends. And he never seems like a guy who's bored. You know, it doesn't strike me as he wouldn't have time for boredom. He doesn't have even time to die, never mind anything else.
Shortly before he put a gun to his chest and took his life, Vincent van Gogh wrote to a close friend that he believed his life to be a terrible failure. In 20 years' time, Van Gogh sold only one painting and was never able to make a successful living from his art. Of course, he is now considered a master for his use of color and inventive style. Yet we must also awe at his relentless commitment to his craft. Success cannot be calculated simply by financial gain or acclamation, but perhaps it is best measured by a dedication to one's own beliefs and self-expression, and a determination to persevere in spite of all odds.
It's Jovan Mihailovic. I write novels, stories, poetry, plays. Then I paint. Then I also compose some musical compositions. I play violin. I teach acting and directing. Originally, I'm from former Yugoslavia, and I saw I didn't see beginning, but I saw the wartime, and I saw later on, I was already in America when the whole thing collapsed. Being in that system, you have to think. Either you have to think or you become like a piece of stone. And more you think, somehow your inner life creates some kind of a vision of freedom and vision of country where you can grow mentally, emotionally, and otherwise. And at that time, I remember I wrote a story at the time. It was like a magic window that through window you go to different world, different dimensions, different time. And that was probably my beginning of subconscious beginning of thinking to leave the country.
I wanted to go away, and I went away. And I went through many different moments of my life. In Stockholm, I was carrying sacks of something, and I was just doing anything, dishwashing. But I was a happy man. Nothing can break my spirit. I was writing, meanwhile I was doing. Then I started playing. Then I had my 2 art shows or 3 in Stockholm. Then I was playing Rikstheater. So when I left Sweden, I liked that country. It was some kind of a sad, melancholy pleasantness. And I had a great moments in Sweden. That's when I learned all about violins, by the way, in Sweden. And it helped me grow. Wherever you go, it happens that you can. If you want to grow, you are going to have motivation to grow. If you don't want to grow, nothing will help you grow.
My name is Steve Gibons. I live in Chicago. I play the violin, and I lead a band called Gypsy Rhythm Project. And I've known Jovan for 15 years or so, and in the past 3 or 4 years, we've become very close friends. The very, very first time I met Jovan was through a common friend of ours named Al Rose. I think at that time he had a whole room basically devoted to the violins. And he's always been working on violins. He's got a whole theory about how to cut the table of a violin, the inside of the top of the violin, to improve the sound, and it works. He does all the violins that he gets, that he sells to people. he does this too, and they always end up having some great kind of character. All I asked Jovan to do was to fix the headstock here. It's cracked. You probably can't see it now because he fixed it, but it was cracked, and all I needed was it to be put together. And I think it was actually for a friend. I wasn't going to actually keep the violin except for temporarily. But instead of doing that, he took the top off the violin and regraduated it, and using his theories of regraduation, which work, and put it all back together and then gave it back to me. And there was no charge. He's never charged me for any work that he's done. But you know, Jovan has absolutely no interest in commercializing it or, you know, doing them on a made-to-order basis or anything like that, you know. He just always goes back to working at the art itself, and you know, that's what he does.
Yeah, my name is Jerry Coyne, and I've known Jovan for about 3.5 years. He's worked on violins for me as well. I'll come over and to get them either repaired and things like that. And he has a fantastic ear because he's really a violinist, you know, and he kind of knows how the instrument should sound and if it needs any touch-up or things like that. And he's very good at that. It usually comes back a different instrument.
It started when my father saw this beautiful copy of Gasparo da Salo in some antique store, and he bought it for me. Naturally, once you have violin, somebody has to learn violin. In fact, my brother was also studying. He was older, 6 years. But we started learning at the same time, and he wasn't doing so. He was all right. He was all right, but he wasn't even interested much. But I found violin magical, and it was really beautiful instrument. It was unique looking, yellow with beautiful purfling on the back that created my desire to decorate later on my own instruments. I was always attracted to violin. I was searching violins since I was 14. Played so many different violins, good ones, bad ones. And then I started working on violins. My specialty is to pick up old, ugly, and bad sounding violin, turn into beautiful, beautiful sounding violin. And I had a bunch of people that I restored, repaired, I improved violin more than 100%.
25 years. He's always been in the shop. But he knows a lot about it. He's a good player. Have you heard him play? He's a very good player, and he's just a very unusual person. That he says he was in intensive care twice. He was near death twice. So that you see him now that way is a miracle.
Where are the stories there with him being ill?
Well, as I told you, he fell off the ladder and broke his arm, and it almost came off. It was so bad.
He finds himself in situations that are very bad, and then he gets himself out of them using a lot of times just with brute strength, you know. For example, a couple winters ago, he's walking down the street, and he falls. He slips on some ice, and he breaks his pinky on his left hand, playing violin. It's like, you can't play without that. So now most people would have, you know, been all panicked, and they would have, you know, asked somebody to call 911, gone to the hospital and had it set. None of that for him. He set it himself with his other hand. And I am not kidding you. And then he waited for it to heal. And then he just started exercising it. And then he started playing again. And then he got back to his normal playing. I mean, it's like, wow. You know, I've talked about this with a couple friends other friends of like Jerry Coyne. We just shake our heads. It's like, oh, wow. He set his own pinky, broken pinky. Go figure that, you know.
That limp was actually sign of my protest. I don't know, pacifistic, maybe against the military in general, whatever, but that was also my sign of anti-communist tendencies, because At that moment of my life, I was supposed to, 3 theaters were preparing my plays. And then I was supposed to go to military service, stay there 2 years, losing all connections, losing opportunities, and being playing the most miserable man on the planet. So my brother tried to, he was a doctor, he thought if he make me 6 months paralyzed on my left leg, they're going to let me go and then the leg would rejuvenate or regain the, but never happened. It never happened because he didn't know how to do it. It was so terrible, everything turned into just bone and skin. There was no muscles left. Then on my little bit of exercise, I got it back and now I'm limping, trying my own exercises now every day.
Potentials are dangerous word. I hate to say potentials because I don't know what is potential really. Because who the hell knows? Who can tell you how much you can do? Nobody. Not even you can say that. You have to simply keep working and always striving to be critical. Yet, even if you are critical to yourself, there is some little flame in you that will tell you, "Oh my God, I'm doing the right thing." That cannot be taken away from you.
He's a very passionate man about his paintings, and he could spend hours and hours and hours, you know, just painting, and he does.
Venice was built, established actually, started 452 AD. Venice rose from the sea the same way Venus rose from the sea. Remember Berta Venus by Botticelli? She, all of a sudden, a giant shell comes out of it, opens up, and the beautiful woman comes out of it. Knowing how great achievement Venice is, how unique monument of human creativity Venice really is, and knowing that one day maybe sea will cover Venice, at least partially, so that nobody can really live there, I decided to make a collection of art as my sign of love and appreciation for human creativity and for Venice as a result of that human creativity. And the more I work on that project, I've been working since 1999, more and better ideas are coming.
I like especially like all the different colors. He's a master of different colors, and he's always trying something different, and he comes up with some really great stuff, and he just keeps going.
Well, he had an apartment once where you couldn't walk. The paintings were stacked up. And he seems to be able to knock out one a night or something. That's the remarkable thing. And he doesn't sell many in Chicago, but he went to DC once and he sold about 40 of them. So I said, why don't you move there? It's a different market. He never did. You know, he's still painting every night. And
this is important because you see, here I try to a little more explicitly to see the skies, dark skies. These are dark ages, by the way. You see, he's, let's say, 12th, 13th century AD, and she's a serenity and he is in agony, and the whole thing is somber, you see. But there is a ship that going somewhere, that human spirit is always alert and always trying to find way to different dimensions, different discovery of some of new meanings. And I think it's a positive, basically, message. And the point is that we need to understand that there is no limit to human creativity. That's why I love so much Star Treks and all those things, because that was beautiful. When I was quite young fellow, we had those comic books. They were basically made in America, United States, but then they came very quickly to us. There was, of course, Flash Gordon and other things. These things, I wish people would see how beautiful they were done and how beautiful message was. Just encouraging message. It was not horror. Nobody was worshipping somebody who will come and eat 100 people at once or something like that, and some big monsters. There was no monsters. Why monsters? That was time when we started exploring outside universe. But now I have too many monsters. I think we should cut monsters. Start cutting them off, slowly but surely. Anyway, everything in this place is basically between 30% and 98% done. It's not, because this is most of the done, this one here. This is, you see, I have certain things that are about fall. You see, beginning of fall or the end of summer. And even the statue is sad because the summer is gone. Somehow it seemed to me only natural that I would have somewhere sooner or later a fisherman grabbing something, some live creatures from the sea. But you know, the point is that we are taking too much of those creatures from everywhere. I mean, people are so hungry, I can see that they could eat entire planet and then ask for more. So Venus is appearing here, you see, watching the old fisherman who is here. He took so much fish and he doesn't know what to do. And some fish are sort of looking at him with kind of a innocent surprise. Why the hell you took us from the sea? Man has a destructiveness that he has to control. He does take from the nature too much. And that's a basic idea about fishermen, even though that in a sense is a symbol of strength, but strength can be abusement also, can do lots of harm.
From the Lord of Flesh by Jovan Mihailovic. The artist was still in shock with what he had seen in his mind. Whatever it was, he wasn't sure of it, and he would never be sure, though he suspected what he saw was his real future. But he didn't want to think of it. He wasn't brave enough, strong enough for that. Somehow he knew that if it was the way it was to be, then he couldn't do anything about it anyway.
So then they started Theatre Academy. That was the first time they were having a playwriting division, which was never done before in the entire part of Europe, actually. There was 179 actually candidates, and out of them they selected 16, out of which I was number one. But that means nothing because I didn't have any support among family nobody was really in any position, party, communist party. So yeah, it's all story.
Yeah, I was just reading some of his poetry recently that he wrote, which I enjoyed quite a lot. Some poetry based on titles of Jewish tunes, well actually klezmer tunes, like old Eastern European Jewish music from like the early 20th century, late 19th century. He takes the titles and then he writes a poem based on the title. Kind of abstract, I guess, you know.
I went to one of these acting studios where they have theaters, and his play was there. It was a one-man act, and it was a fantastic play. It was a one-act play where this guy had, I guess, maybe it was something Jovan was thinking about. As a playwright and everything, he was always on the phone calling somebody, getting people together to appear in this production. And then there's always somebody, his landlady, talking outside of a door. You never see her. Where's the rent? This and that. And finally, he gets people interested, and this goes on for a couple hours. Then they all, for some reason, they all call up later and they cancel out.
For anybody who has something to say, it's very crucial to have audience. Otherwise, you're like a lunatic talking to nobody around. When I wrote my novel about Paganini and so, that's interesting. It's a pact with devil. It's a very unique thing based on in Chicago, present-day Chicago. The punishment for Paganini, who wrote a pact with the devil, is that he's in hell, but his punishment is like that. He comes to the town. Everywhere he goes, big signs, great Paganini is here to give concert. And then he goes to the main opera house, and there is here's a big noise of people in there. He goes around the building, go to the back door, and go to the stage. As soon as he comes to the stage, the noise stops. Looks around, there is nobody in there, except few rats moving back and forth, empty. And then he realized that it's the whole thing was illusion. That he cries, screams of the agony, and then the whole thing repeats again.
Red, crimson, and sparks of gold, all in the eyes of a pigeon, hopelessly in love with the sunset in Venice. Jovan Mihailovic.
Expressing yourself is very important because it's like some kind of a cosmic law. You are born as an individual, you are born as a particular person, and certainly your messages have to be as personal, as specific as you are as a human being. Well, you see, nothing can stop you if you really want to. If you have something to say, there is no force that can shut up your mouth. There is, that's it.
The kind of focus that he's got, just so intense. It's just amazing, you know? It's just amazing.
So art is a food for heart, for thought, for mind, for the soul. And eventually each human being is potential artist, I would say. So only some people just feel that they cannot do it and they never do it, and some people just have no opportunity to start doing it. But never stop. If you start, never, never, ever, never stop doing it.
We give him the kind of Renaissance man label because, you know, who else can do so many things so well, you know, write poetry and play, you know, play the way he plays and then paint as well. So you have to have passion for that, you know.
And I gave lots of thought about it, and I think that the Renaissance man is basically a man, human being, who loves universe, who loves this planet, who loves the people around him, and finally he loves himself or herself, but in that very particular order. And you know what? The chance was given to me to do something, and I'm trying to do something. It's nothing forever, I'm not forever, but I will do my best to leave something behind me. That's about it.